What is up, guys? How's it going? I've been thinking about doing some basic beginner tutorials for Unity, targeting about the 5-minute range on entry-level topics. So this will be the first trial and test to see how it goes, and what better to start with than a simple particle effect. And for this video, the particle we're targeting is, for anybody who's played stuff like Hollow Knight, we're going for some falling leaves or grass just floating down from the sky. So create a basic leaf. You can do this however you want, GIMP, Photoshop, whatever. I'm not going to do a tutorial on how to do this. Just create your leaf and hop over to Unity. So once you're in your project, create a particle system under the Effects tab and name it whatever you want. And right off the bat, we're going to get some motion with some blank squares, right? So the first thing I do is I go in and assign the leaf texture we created. And notice under this texture sheet animation tab, you can add a whole sprite sheet and loop through that sprite to make look like your particles have animation with them. And also, a different method of doing this would be to create a new material and apply your image or your sprite to that material and apply the material to the particle effect. But I've found this is much simpler for stuff I don't want to go and create an actual material for. Just assign the simple leaf or the simple texture here. So now that we have our leaf spawning, we can start playing with the settings of the effect to get the outcome we want. And first thing we would do is change the start speed. We don't want any speed of this. We're going to let the physics engine take care of that for us because we want these to float down, not have a speed in a direction. We can adjust the size to fit the area we're doing these in, the size of leaves we want. And most options in here, you'll notice, will have the ability to flip between two constants. And for size, this works really well, right? You'll get some little bit smaller size leaves and some bigger ones. Just gives a much better effect than one static size object. And you notice for rotation, we can do the same thing here. And for leaves or something like this, I like to go between -45 and 45, just so it kind of looks more natural for me for leaves, because they wouldn't be really pointing straight down or straight up typically, right? They're kind of floating down at those two angles, or in between those two angles. And of course, a mistake I almost always make coming to the color is export your image as a grayscale, like your leaf, you want a grayscale, and then when you come here into the editor, your coloring will be a lot easier, right? If I try to color this, it's got to, by default, that green color I gave it, it's not going to color very well. So now we want to give it a little bit of gravity to pull these down. And this will be another thing you'll just kind of have to play with to get the effect that you want, the speed that you want, how fast you want these to fall, right? So now we want to change the shape of this. This is really just kind of where these particles will spawn, right? You can have a little circle, you can have a giant box, you can have three-dimensional shapes, or 2D shapes. And I know this is for a 2D game I'm working on, but giving it the three-dimensional box also allows for some of them to have a little bit of that parallax effect, spawning farther away from the camera. And this is something I like to do with almost all the particles I create, is on the color over time, start it out alpha 0, and then end as an alpha 0, and have 2 points there where it kind of does the fade, so it kind of fades in and fades out. I've noticed if you don't do that, they kind of it doesn't look right. They just kind of pop in and pop out, and it's very noticeable. And for these leaves, we want to give them a little bit of rotation while they're floating down. We don't want them to be static, just giving them that organic flow of floating back and forth down, giving them that rotation. And the next option we're going to use is the noise option, and this is what gives it that kind of random motion, making it appear like it's floating back and forth as it floats down. Something else you'll have to tweak a lot depending on the area, how long you want these particles to last, is their lifetime. So that's how long they last after they spawn. So here, just tweaking it to where I want them to disappear around hitting the floor area. I'm not going to use it, but I think I'll mention the collision, right? If you want to turn this on, and you can give it a specific area to collide on, or you can set it to world. And quickly I'll mention under the emission tab, this will control how many particles spawn at a time, basically. And with just a little bit more tweaking, I think I've gotten this to a point that I like. And so here's the final product. And of course I already made one similar to this and I didn't realize it, but I kind of like the way that it looks together. I may just need to scale them both down a little bit. There's a little too much going on. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to take a quick look at how the whole like sprite sheets work. And here's a like a butterfly effect I made earlier of just a simple butterfly, like he's flapping his wings. It took advantage of the color gradient start just to give the full spectrum of colors and give that kind of animation of them flying. And if this turns out well, maybe we'll do another one. I was thinking importing and rigging a 2D character. And if these go well, maybe animating as well, and then programming and coding an enemy. And if you haven't, please check out my Metroidvania I'm working on called Phantom Tides. And I do have it up on the Steam store, so please wishlist if you can. I know it helps out a lot. And like and subscribe if you want, and see you next time.